Hey, Grampion Nation, welcome back. Today, your champion is Bill Kasko. And I got to tell you, I love people who disrupt, who actually step in and disruptors like a really cool word these days, but someone who actually does it has a different perspective. And so hang on for our disruptor of the day, Bill Kasko.
In 2013, I coined the name Grampion, and I gave it to your host, Jim Tracy.
Bill, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jim. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much. Excited, and it's been, I feel like a long journey just to get here for the two of us. So I appreciate you hanging in there with me till we were able to get our schedules to work. So thank you.
I'm thrilled. I love people who step in and they change the dimensions of an industry by an act of vision. And I know that sounds crazy, creepy, whatever, but dude, you did it. Tell us. So you're the president and CEO of Frontline Source Group.
I am. And
what do you guys do?
So so on our journey here in year 23, 22, 23, 25, whatever it is. I mean, it's way too damn long. Started off as a professional staffing agency. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, what do we do? It's a journey of where we're at today. So we started off as this professional staffing agency. Today we are a nationwide executive search, specialty recruiting, staffing agency, niche kind of. I don't know what we are, to tell you the truth, half the time, but we've developed into something over the years based on what the employer was looking for and what we saw a demand for that was a great need, is the best way to kind of put it.
In a lot of cases, you're solving problems for companies who've got an executive problem.
Yeah, no, we absolutely are. We're in this unusual industry where we answer to two clients, if you will. And it's really unusual because many times our industry is compared to like used car salespeople, which I've always thought, to be honest, I don't know why they get I don't know why used car people get like a bashing, right? Yeah. Because I feel like if you sell used cars, you have to be really intelligent about what's going on, because you don't work in just one area. You don't only sell a Ford. You sell GM and Honda and Toyota and everything else. Yeah. And it's always been put in this space because it was like there's not a lot of value that people place on it, and you're kind of beaten down, and HR departments don't like you. But at the end of the day, you're helping individuals that are looking to make a career change or looking for work, and then you're helping companies find the best talent in the marketplace. But unfortunately, you're in an industry that's tainted with people that kind of come and go and do a lot of shady activities. And so when I set out to start the company 20 whatever years ago, it was to make a difference from an ethics standpoint, and then to stand out, to really make a difference every day to help both of those. We live in this gray area. And so if I piss this person off over here, I'm going to piss that person off over there. And so we have to make sure that we do the right thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, one of the things that you brought up, and I'm going to go back to the car salesman in a minute. The problem with car salesmen happens to stem from ethics and the 1-inch warranty. 1 inch after your bumper clears my lot, I don't know your name anymore. That's one of the things that you changed. That's one of the things that you disrupted, isn't it?
Yeah, and that really started around I got into this industry, and the industry quote is known for this: company hires an individual from an agency like us. They bring them on. That person doesn't work out. They're there for a month or two. We charge the company $20,000, and because it didn't work out, the quote industry way was that I have to give the $20,000 back.
Yeah.
And I just had a problem with that. I'm like, we did the work. And they're like, yeah, well, the person didn't work out. Okay, but after I handed them off to you, how is that my fault? I
Yeah.
mean, that's not the same thing. And so I had an issue, and I couldn't figure out the right way to do it. In the beginning, we did it as like a prorated amount that we would give back, and that didn't make sense. And one day it kind of just hit me that we've got to fix this.
Yeah.
And so I took our leadership team, and what better way to solve a problem than to go to Vegas? And so we went to Vegas, and we had this incredible room at the Bellagio. And we went into this room, and I said, we are locking ourselves in. We have this huge whiteboard. I said, we're not leaving until we solve this problem. And I said, we have to come up with something that's different. And so we had already been brainstorming and talking about this, but what really happened was that about 6 months prior, and this is horrible, I guess, to talk about, but today it's not going to sound as bad. My wife and I were buying our daughter her first car,
Uh-huh.
and so it was a used vehicle, and it's in a book. They did a whole chapter about this whole thing. It's called The American Entrepreneur. But I'm sitting here in the finance office with our daughter. She's getting this Lexus. It's used. I don't want to preface that. We didn't just go buy her some expensive. It was a good car, right?
Yeah.
And we're sitting there, and the finance person says, yeah, you get this, and by the way, you're going to get this. You get a 5-year warranty that we're going to protect this. And our daughter looked at me and she said, that's kind of like what you guys do, Dad. And I looked at her and I started laughing. Why would we do that? That doesn't make sense. And that's when it hit me. Like, why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah.
And so when we went to Vegas, I came in already guns loaded with this idea, which, by the way, in full disclosure, I had already been kind of dropping hints and ideas and thoughts and seeing what people thought. And everybody on the team was like, that's never going to work. How do you do this? I mean, we're in a commission driven industry. People aren't going to, nobody's going to agree to that. They're not going to want it. And the clients, they're going to hate it. So we got in this room and I threw it out and I said, this is where we're going to start with this idea. And if the automotive industry can do it, and we a lot of times compare that when you hire someone, it's not like you don't buy a vehicle. A vehicle breaks, you take it back. I said, but maybe it is kind of like this. And I said, we're going to start with the foundation we're going to build. Yeah. And we're not going to leave until we come up with a way that this is going to work. And that's what we did. And we came up with an idea. We came up with the foundation and then kind of built an idea around it. We took that back and we beta tested it for 3 months, and we just tore it apart. We came up with all the different ways it would work and wouldn't work, and from the client side and from our side, and the arguments and how's it all going to work. And we started rolling it out, and we you know what, it worked. And at first people were like, absolutely not. We originally were calling it and if I had been smart, I would have trademarked it. It originally was called the PPP plan. And if you think back and you're like, oh, the people, wait, that sounds like something. I'm like, yeah. Because it was called the Promotion Protection Plan. And the idea was that you hired someone, and if you promoted them, then we were going to refill your position. And it was this special pricing. It was the warranty that was built around it. Sure. We weren't having problems with placing people and having it not work. That's not really what it is. Which is another interesting whole avenue to go down that we recognized as we went through this, that for some reason our industry, we were selling on a negative.
Yeah. I
mean, as salespeople, we were selling our client on the idea that the placement wouldn't work. Wow. I didn't even realize it until we started digging through this, that the whole idea was that the companies in the industry sold on the idea that when it doesn't work, we're going to do this. And I'm like, wait a second, what does our data show? We went back to show the data, and the fact is that our data and the fall off of what we call it, or not workings, it was less than 1%. Wow. And so why were we selling on that? Why weren't we selling on the positive? Yeah. And then when we dug into our numbers deeper, we found out that the average person, like over 85% of the people we placed, were being promoted within the first year.
Wow.
Wow, that's like a huge number.
That's amazing.
It was amazing, and it still is amazing.
Yeah.
What's even more frightening was that what we found out was that our client wasn't coming back to us to fill the position again. So we
Really?
hired an out. I know.
That's stupid. That's punishment for your success.
So that's exactly what it was. So we hired a
Wow.
third party outside source to actually survey and ask, because we were already doing surveys and getting the information back. Hired this outside source. They went back, did interviews with our clients. Clients were like, oh, we love them. They were wonderful. We absolutely love them. Why didn't you do it again? Their answer was, because we already paid them one time. We didn't want to pay them again for the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And that goes back to selling on a negative. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so when we started really drilling into it, we figured out how to make it work. We created basically a proprietary way of doing this that we knew nobody else in the industry was going to be able to latch onto. Like, there have been plenty that have tried to copy it. They can't make it work. And so we kept drilling into what's the upside, what's the upside, what's the upside, slowly. And I mean slow. I'm not talking like, Jim, it was slow.
Yeah.
Not only did we get bashed on social media, which, by the way, was really just coming out at the time, on LinkedIn, the competitors saying, you guys are stupid, this is the worst thing ever, what are you doing, this will never work, blah. I mean, it just went on and on and on.
And by
And
contrast, everybody else is like going, there's a 90-day period where
correct.
we guarantee your satisfaction, and on day 91, I don't know you anymore.
That's exactly it. And they run away.
And then the clients are looking for that calendar to click, and so they're firing on 89.
That is exactly it. And our whole argument was, you don't really know a person in 90 days. So you're literally making a decision at day 89, and it happens. This is so ridiculous. But on top of that, what we found two flaws. One was a flaw in contracts that were being used in the entire industry that said, if it didn't work, then the company would work towards a replacement. It didn't say they promised them they were going to do it. They would work towards one. Okay.
Yeah.
What we found was that when they weren't having success in replacing it, the client, the employer, they were never hearing from that recruiter again.
Yeah.
So it gave the industry a bad rep and a bad name, because they were like, oh, I've been calling the guy, they won't call me back, and blah, 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 blah. And we're like, well, there's no money in it. So why would they call you back? And then you want me to refund all of that, and you used them all the way up to day 89. And why didn't you get rid of them in the beginning? Why didn't you know in the beginning? Probably because your interview process wasn't right.
Yeah.
And so what we did was to actually revamp and change even our process to get people, and to ensure that our client was engaged with us so that we wouldn't have this happen. Bad hires are going to happen. I have a saying that it's you hire a good person who went bad.
Yeah.
You hired the right person, but they went bad. That happens. But it doesn't have to happen all the time if you have a right process involved. So for us, it wasn't just changing one piece of the model, it was changing the entire model for us to actually say to people, we're not going to be the best resource to fill that position. We're going to walk away. So we ended up actually walking away from business and not increasing, but by being selective in what we were doing, the satisfaction rate to our client was higher.
Yeah.
And so when clients, when they understood that, and they took a look at it to say, we get it. Or, the client who would come back and tell us, we require, for example, an onboarding call for every position. Yeah. It's 30, 45 minutes to an hour, depends on that relationship with the client. The day of the client sending, and this happens all the time, they go, hey, I need a position filled. I need an accounting person, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's how we used to do it. That's how everybody did it. We don't do that anymore. Yeah. So when somebody goes, oh, I don't have time to get on the phone, well, we don't have time to work on it, because we're not going to be successful. So what we were able to do is mitigate all of that so that our success rate increased, which meant the experience was better for the employer, but also for the candidate. Again, remember, we answer to two, so we have to keep everybody happy in between here. And so longevity kicked in. Now, the big thing with our 5-year warranty on the placement was that we were able to come back, again, not selling on a negative. We're selling on the positive to show them if the data from our government shows us, and today as an example I'll use, the average tenure in this country is 1.8 years in a position. The odds are pretty good you're going to have to refill the job.
Yeah.
So why are you working on 90 days? So we just started a whole campaign that runs still today. Why do 90 days when you can do 5 years? It doesn't make any sense for people to do this. And so even today, we have, people leave, but we have more phone calls back from clients today because the person at 4 years has decided to make a change. Or we just had one the other day. They're like, hey, I just left after 20 years and they need to fill a position. And you're like, that's a win, but you don't hear about that. And so for us, when we started changing it up and making a change, it was a game changer. But what was really interesting was COVID. And when COVID came around, and pretty standard in our industry that it's written in that if you have layoffs, it doesn't count, right? Well, COVID was unusual. I mean, it was obviously a pandemic. That's never, we still don't have it written into an agreement. But, they had massive layoffs. And these companies came back to us and said, I know it says, you guys won't, do this because of that, but could you help us in any way? And we were like, yeah, we'll still help you. Well, you know what? We'll even honor that. We'll do that for you. Or we had them come back and they said, hey, the person was here for 3 years and they just left. We'd like to do the warranty. And we're like, yeah, but your warranty had triggers in it. Like you had to pay the bill on time, for example, and you didn't. And so at the time when we even were telling you, you said, well, we don't care what it says. This is when we pay it.
Wow.
Sorry that we can't do that, but, of course, we'll try to figure something out. And that's what
thing about disruptors is what I find is that people who disrupt industries, and I've looked at lots of different, I mean, even healthcare, which is not a very standard industry. If you look at people who disrupt it, do you know what they get? They get recurring revenue. And that's exactly the story you're telling.
Yeah. And that's just it, that they came back to us. And they come back over and over and over again. And part of that is that what we put in place was if that position we fill, and then that person gets promoted, then we'll refill the position again, but we're not going to charge you the same amount. It's a discounted amount that we're going to refill it for. And the argument was, well, why? Well, first of all, we've done it once. Surely we can do it again. But it has to be the exact same position. So you can't come back in and say, oh, they got promoted, and by the way, this position, it's changed now. That's not the same position. And so what we also found was that a lot of times companies will hire someone and they'll only tell us part of the equation, right? Because they want to save a buck. I get it. We understand that. But when you come back and now you say, oh yeah, by the way, it's not just they need to also have their CPA. You're like, well, that's not the same of what you're looking for. So that's going to change up a little bit. But it's the respect. And that probably to us was the biggest game changer, was that the companies that treated us like a commodity were no longer doing that. And we walked away from that. We said, we're not interested. When it's all about how much you have to pay to us, or hey, we have 5 other recruiters working on this and they can't fill it, we literally still to this day say, sorry, we're out. When you fire the other ones, give us a call. But we're not. You've already got 5 working on it. That doesn't make any sense.
Right. So what happens? Or I'm going to rephrase that question. How expensive, in your experience, is a bad hire, especially at the executive level?
It can be. I don't know that you can put, I don't know that we could say an actual, it depends, right, on the
Yeah.
severity of what we're talking about. But it depends on what happens. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever their salary is, just use that as a minimum
Yeah.
because by in the level of what you're going to. But if they made mistakes that cost,
Oh
that's
yeah.
where it's ridiculous,
Millions.
right?
It's
Yeah,
millions. Yeah.
it could be the company at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And so even that sometimes is about the parameters of what you're looking for to find. That's another difficult piece that we're running into, and what we see coming with AI in particular because of false positives
Yeah.
and individuals being able to skirt a lot of. We just had a situation this week where our COO literally had me on the phone going, I think this is a robot I'm talking to. I don't think
Wow.
this is a real person. I think this candidate is not real. I'm like, what are you talking? Are you kidding me? Because so much is done through video and
Yeah.
audio and everything else. And they said we can't get them on video. They'll only do it on audio. And they actually asked a question before they get their offer. Are they going to have to meet in person? I
Wow.
went, whoa, maybe
I
that is
know.
that's a flag.
Yeah.
So
Well, with the
I'm not
advent
sure.
of
Yeah.
the explosion of social media, is it easier to find charlatans, or now with AI, is it getting harder to find charlatans?
It's definitely becoming more difficult. We just went through a period, and in particular, I hate to kind of bash a whole sector of skill here, but IT individuals were abusing the system recently to a bad degree, specifically working for multiple companies at the same time
Yeah,
and
for
being
sure.
remote. They've been able to do it, and we had it happen to us. In fact, with a position where our client wanted to hire them, but they had to be in office. And as we're going through it, the individual made the comment, "Well, they need to pay me. I need 20,000. It was like 20 or $30,000 more because I'm going to have to stop working the other job that I'm working on." And I'm like, "Wait a second, what are you
Time
talking
out.
about?" Yeah, he goes, "Well, I work part time during the week also for this other company." I go, "How can you work
Yeah.
part time and full time over here?" What? And then we found out, yeah, he actually was working like three different jobs.
Oh wow.
So part of that is the technology that's coming around. There's some new AI tools that are pretty interesting. I was on an interview a couple months ago with a person, a video interview, and you could tell they didn't have a clue. They were running AI on another
Yeah.
screen while they were doing it. But the tools now, in fact, we've used an AI agent recruiter for almost 3 years that does actual phone interviews. We're about to launch one that does video. She will actually do a video interview, but she will tell us it has fraud detection built in. It's the most unbelievable
Mm,
product I've ever seen.
sure.
But it will actually flag us and tell us when during the video it detected there's possible fraud taking place.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be something that we're going to all have to be
Game
conscious
changer.
about is going, yeah,
Yeah.
we've had to do that with references in particular, and that's not something new. I mean, reference checks on people has been a scam for quite some time. We
Yeah.
launched an IP focused way to do that where we're able to track the IP address that's done online, and then it will flag it, and we will
Hmm.
see people that will submit three references, and they're all glowing, of course, but they all came from the same IP address, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
that's just not possible.
Yeah.
And so I think it's definitely coming for sure. Yeah.
You know, is there, and I focus a little bit because of my position, like I sit on some boards, and when we do hiring, it really, chemistry is
Right.
something that is so critical to cultures. There has to be a chemistry fit between the leader. If you're hiring C-suite, there has to be some chemistry. And if there's not, is there anything outside of spending time with them one on one, or two on one, whatever? Is there anything that can replace that human element, to see if there's chemistry or like-mindedness?
I don't think so. And I think that's I always tell people it's like that's the job security of what we do. And so, but I do share with people something that I created years ago that I have found to be one of the best telltale signs of that individual, and especially when we pass them on to our client and our client sits down to visit with them. And that's the same way that I interview internally, which is great. You know, a resume looks great. I'll read over their information in the background. That's wonderful. But what I always turn it around as to is just tell me about growing up.
Yeah.
Tell me your story. And a great storyteller is usually ends up being that great executive for you and a team leader as well. But I want to hear about that. I want to know about the story. I want to know about their parents. Yeah. It's not an EEOC violation. It's not going to get you in trouble or anything like that. It's a conversation to understand the person. One of the things that I believe as humans that we have moved into now in this next technology generation is that we have a difficult time communicating. Just having an ongoing conversation. And if you think about it, we can send a text, we can send an email, but picking up the phone and having a conversation, getting on a podcast. So many people I hear, they're like, "Oh, I would never go on something like that. I couldn't do that." I'm like, "What are you talking about? You sit there and you text all day long. Why? It's a conversation. Do you not speak with your spouse or your kids or your friends? I mean, this is about telling a story." Yeah. And so much of interviewing, making a job change, hiring people, it's the story. What's your story? What I call it the why. Why are you here? Why should I even visit with you? But if you can't explain and be passionate about where you've been to get you to where you're at, there's a problem.
Or even articulate. I mean, even to tell a story in a way that would resonate with someone outside of yourself. It's not that difficult.
How do you capture an audience to sit there and understand? And I've had these interviews. I'm the oldest of 4 kids, single mom, and had to work in high school. Great. I mean, had a paper route at like 12 or whatever, contributing to a family.
Yeah.
I interview someone like that, and I'm going to hire them on the spot. Yeah. Because I know what that means. It doesn't take away from the person that didn't have to do that. These are just different characteristics. Yeah. So what are you looking for? I want to hear that story. I want to know about what they had to go through. If they didn't, then you were blessed with having everything you ever would want and you don't want it. It may not work in our culture of our company if the work ethic as a CEO is that I work 80 hours a week. I don't expect everybody else to, but I also expect you to have a work ethic. Yeah. That's going to tell me what I need to know. And that's the part that you can pull out and you can understand. But if they sit there and they're like, well, I don't know, had some siblings and mom and dad. Yeah. It was great. Lived in the suburbs.
What do you do?
That's not exciting to me.
Yeah. What do you do when you get an obvious mismatch? I mean, it's in today's society, especially with the younger folks, nobody wants to get a turn down. And nobody wants to get a, quote, rejection letter. And nobody wants to give them anymore. Do you find yourself forced to be really honest and transparent with people? Like, you really had a terrible interview, and here's, like, the first 17 things you did wrong.
Well, yeah, that's the best way to put it, right? Yeah. So part of that goes back to communication. And that's another sore subject. I can remember 5-6 years ago, definitely before COVID, maybe 7 years ago, when we started coming out with the word ghosting, right? Yeah. And we started noticing it with job seekers in particular. And it was just like they would call, they'd be interested. We'd do an interview. We talk to our client about them. They're ready to move forward. Oh, I'm so excited. We prep them the day before. Here's where you're going to show up. Actually, I will throw this out. Southwest Airlines was the first time that this ever really came up, a client of ours. And they wouldn't show up to the interview. They would no show.
So a candidate.
Yeah. Great opportunity. Okay. And it was Southwest Airlines. And and you're like, oh my gosh, right? And the client's like, what's the deal? We had it all set up. They didn't show up, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, we don't know. Other than calling them an Uber, I don't know what I can do. We would go in for our quarterly review. I remember going in this one time in particular. This had been going on. We went in this review. We were sitting down. We're going through everything, and literally this rep from Southwest says to me, "You're not going to believe what's been happening this quarter, but we have people that are ghosting us and not showing up." And I looked at them and I went, "You're kidding me. Welcome to the party." It wasn't just us. It was also they were having the same issue. And that was the first time that I think we really started realizing part of that was stemming from experiences that people were having with other companies where they wouldn't get a call back, they wouldn't get a phone call, they wouldn't have communication taking place to let them know. Instead, it was the quote black hole. I submit my resume, I never hear. So we put in a lot of triggers and pieces that would automatically send them a communication saying, "We have it. Here's what's happening. Going through the process. This is exactly what's going to take place. You may never hear from us. It doesn't mean we haven't looked at it. It just means we can't physically call you." So we would spell that out, and we started helping clients explain to them, you have to go a step further. You have to figure out how to communicate in a better way after an interview, just like we would tell the individual interviewing, sending a handwritten note. Don't send an email. Send a handwritten note, because people, they don't get mail anymore. They want to open it up, make a difference, differentiate, stand out. We would tell the companies the same thing. You have to have communication back to us. We have to have feedback. We have to be able to give that back to that person to let them know where we're going and what's happening. And when you do that, you build the rapport between all of the parties, and you're able to figure it out so that if you do have to let them down, they already know. They already know when they come out of that interview, it didn't go well. Because that's what we do. Is the moment's over, call us, let's talk. That happens. Look, it didn't go well. It was horrible. I wasn't on my game. This person, they asked me questions I wasn't prepared for. It's okay. That's fine. The client will then call us. You know what? It didn't go well, but we like them. We have this happens a lot. We have another role that we think they'd actually be a better fit for. Hey, you're right. It didn't go well, but they really like you and they have another opportunity. Are you open to it? Yes, absolutely. And then you figure out how to make things work. The letting down part to me is the most upsetting. The part when we have to tell them they didn't get the position or give them feedback that's negative when it's more than like 48 hours later. That kills me. Because you come out of an interview, you know within about 2 minutes if this is going to go well or not. And anybody that says, "Oh, I really wasn't sure," baloney. You knew. And the important part is to share that, because you're dealing with someone's emotions and a career change, or they're out of work and they've got a family they need to take care of. And we just try to, make sure that we're going that extra step with communication more than anything else.
For sure. I've heard it said that anger is generally the result of unmet expectations. And it sounds like you're you're just doing a better job of managing expectations. Is that accurate?
The best we can, because, because setting realistic expectations from the beginning is key. So when we have an employer that comes to us and they have unrealistic expectations of what they want, we used to joke and say they want all of this, and by the way, they needed to have worked at NASA. And one time I actually found a person that had worked at NASA, and I thought it was funny, and I sent it to the client. They didn't find it funny, but I did. I thought it was hilarious. But you have to set realistic expectations to say, this is what it is. This is the market. I respect that you have X number that you can pay. That's your band. I get it, and we respect that. This is what the market's paying. You want top talent. This is what it's going to pay. Well, we can't pay that. I respect that. What can you take away? And then the honest conversation, so that you don't place a person in a position and they get into it, and then we get a phone call from the person we placed who says, "Hey, did they tell you that you also had to do this, 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 and this?" And we're like, "No, we never heard any of that. That never came up." And that's when it's not going to go well. We're going to have a problem. And then how is that our fault? And again, when the employer treats our industry like a commodity, then that's what it is. I can't tell you, Jim, how many conversations I have where they're like, they call us you guys. You guys just do that. All you guys are the same. Well, we're not all that. I don't really appreciate that. We're not
You
all the
wouldn't be
same.
on this podcast if you were the same, brother.
Yeah, I mean, we're not all the same, but I understand your frustration.
Yeah.
But let's try to figure out if we can make it work. And a lot of times it all comes down to money, and we get that. I 100% understand that, but I also can't. I'm not God.
Yeah.
I can't make somebody yet. Now, I think we're getting close to having the robots that they can have in there, but it's still not going to be the same.
Yeah. So are there niches where you found yourself kind of cast into where, you get popular in a certain segment of the economy and all of a sudden you become the go-to firm in a segment?
Yeah. There's a couple of them right now that we have, and it's really interesting. One is in the dental skill set, so dentists and hygienists.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to tell you, this has been about a 5-6 year deal for us that we've been in, and why have we become so popular? I'm going to tell you this, and you're not going to believe it, because we're honest. That's it. It's because we have an honest conversation with a practice to say we're at a 4 to 5 year backlog to find talent. It's extremely difficult to find. You're going to have to pay a premium, and I don't even know if we can fill your position.
Yeah.
Now, you want to pay me some money and I'll try? That's how difficult it is. Yeah. That's the conversation. I probably have that conversation 10 times a week.
Wow.
With individual practices all over the country. We've got a great relationship with the American Dental Association. We've got a great relationship with the military. We help people that come out of the military to get them onboarded to practices. Right. Military people are fantastic to work with because, first of all, they'll move anywhere and they've got an incredible work ethic, right?
Yeah.
It's wonderful to work with them. Yeah. The problem is I can't produce the people. So the conversation always starts with, tell me what your problem is. Well, we've been looking for a hygienist for 9 months. We can't find anybody. We hire someone that they only want to work 2 days a week. Great. How much are you paying? And they tell us, and it's ridiculous. Great. What are you doing to try to do this? They tell it, and we're like, okay, here's reality. You're not going to find them on a job board. You're not going to find them posting and spending all this money that you're doing. It's not how it works. And we give them honest feedback and tell them honestly, this is what we're going to do. Right. And I tell them I can't even promise you. I can't. And I understand you want to try something different, but this is what we do and this is how we do it. And it takes time. It's horrible when we get a phone call and they say I need somebody on Monday and we go, that's just not possible. Yeah. And so it's a niche-y thing.
That's really narrow, man. That's really narrow.
It is. And when you place a hygienist, true story, who's 78 years old.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. And the client's happy because it's replacing one that is 77. You realize how desperate it is, right?
Man. Yeah.
Now, the other niche that's really unusual for us is grocery. And we place grocery store managers. Uh-huh. And I never in a million years would have thought that would have been a niche-y space. Yeah. But grocery is very niche-y. It is really it's something that you don't think about. It's something though that we need every day. And it's a massive industry across this country, but in order to place
every
those
little burg, man, at least
it's unique. And grocery people, they don't have resumes. Yeah. Because they go to work for a chain and they stay there for 20, 30 years. And so the only way to do it was for us to actually create and bring in a grocery expert in the business who specializes in that to find people. But it's such a necessity and a need.
Oh
But
my.
to answer you, yes, you do. You
You
end
got to be
up,
a frontline leader. You got to be a people manager. You got to be a
yeah,
customer service expert, and you got to have the cleanest floors in the county.
that is correct. And the customer service piece of it is key, and
Yeah.
somehow not being upset. And I can't imagine what they went through during COVID either,
Oh man.
because that was just must have been a nightmare.
Yeah. And then add to that that you might have to be someone who placates union issues.
Depending on locations and everything
Wow.
else. Yeah, you do.
Wow.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
it's
labor law expert as well.
yeah. Well, and even for us, it's cross state rules.
Mm.
And in particular, we find that with cannabis. And so
Oh
there are
my.
still a lot of people that believe, for example, just because I live in Colorado and it's legal, and then they go and they're interviewing for the company, and the company says, "Hey, you have to drug test," and it comes back and it's positive, and they're like, they have
Yeah.
a no tolerance policy,
Yeah.
and they go, "Yeah, but it's legal." It doesn't matter. It's the company can still have that rule, just like they have a
Yeah.
rule you can't show up drunk to
Yeah.
work. I mean, it's still their rule, and so you have to understand the laws and the changes in between the two, all over the country. And there's so many different rules and laws and legal side of things that, yeah, for us, we become an expert both on, everything from the drug to asking about salaries. I mean, there's
Yeah.
certain states we can't talk about salaries,
Yeah.
and
Crazy.
I call them blemishes in people's backgrounds.
Yeah.
That's another thing we don't really do an application anymore either. The day of the application's long gone. By the way, people don't fill out applications anymore. They don't want to, and
Yeah.
so that's another piece that companies have had to adjust to as time has gone on. That asking somebody to do that, they won't do it. They'll just move on.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy. What do they do instead in lieu of that?
they use your resume, but
Uh-huh.
the biggest kind of match that they use today is LinkedIn.
Uh-huh.
LinkedIn has become the go-to, which I don't get paid by LinkedIn. I pay them a lot of money, but I don't get paid.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, I'm pretty proud of what they've become over the last 25 years,
Yeah. The
and
standard's pretty high, isn't it?
they've stayed true to their color. And considering that Microsoft bought them, you really would have thought it would have become something more, and they would have turned it different. But they haven't. They've stayed true. They've stayed on the rails. It's a little bit. It's not Facebook,
Yeah.
but people talk about private things, let's say. But
Sure.
that's something that employers today use. They'll go to take a look at what their activity is of a person, what it says on their background there. It's become something that it's not uncommon to see CEOs with a LinkedIn page. It's very common,
Yeah.
and so it's definitely something that people use to put up against the backgrounds when they look at people.
Yeah, in my speaking business, I find more often than anything else, people will come and search your LinkedIn and they will say, "Hey, man, back in 1970, whatever, you," I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
"You're diving a little bit too deep there, man."
No,
I
and it's
find
funny
some of
because
my
it tracks it.
premises. Yeah,
Yeah, no, it
yeah,
tracks everything on there, and it's really become a great resource for people too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So as you move forward, what changes do you see coming in your industry that maybe you can disrupt again?
Well, I part of it that's a great question because I think the AI piece of it in particular is going to disrupt,
Hmm.
and I've got a lot of boards and groups that I'm on and member groups that we have this discussion. I've got the old school way that people say this is the same thing we heard when social media came out and Facebook was going to eliminate everything, and we weren't going to need recruiters, we weren't going to be around, and blah blah blah, and we're here and it's great, blah. I'm not worried.
Yeah,
And I've said, well, I heard the same thing when I was a kid and we brought home the first microwave and my dad told us we wouldn't have chefs in restaurants. Okay. Uh, and I will tell you that today Denny's has like 12, but they still have people that have to operate them. So I kind of agree that it's not going to put us out, but you have to adapt.
hmm,
And I think that's going to be the part that companies are going to look at. Now, we've already heard, we're only 27 months, 36 months into AI.
yeah,
Jamie Dimon just came out the other day, which JP, when they did their earnings, and said they were actually hiring back people that they had cut because of AI.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we're going to recognize, is that the AI piece of it is already disrupting the human capital piece of what we're in, and disrupting. We've had it, like I said, an AI recruiter for almost 3 years. We were one of the first companies to beta test and use, and we're on version 7 with our AI recruiter Joy, who does phone calls and interviews people. And she's great. She can do 600 interviews an hour.
Wow.
She does them at 24 hours a day. People actually do interviews, Jim. This is hard to believe. They do interviews at 1 and 2 in the morning
Wow.
because she's available. And so, the time to, quote, get your product to market speeds everything up.
Yeah.
So with technology, you're looking at, how do we do this? How do we do it better? So disrupting is going to be staying ahead of technology, but embracing it. And so what we have done is spent millions on this next round that we're doing with the video interviews, the really intense voice side of things, the interaction where they can do an interview on the fly, immediately do an interview for people, and then ramping up the way that we communicate so that it's much quicker. For us, by doing that, what we're staying true to is that next step is the human touch.
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to have, because I've already seen it. You have HR departments and companies saying, "Hey, we'll automate this with AI. We can eliminate, all of these people in HR." Companies, when they look to save money, the first place they go is the HR department.
Yeah.
They don't generate revenue. There's still this mindset that is it really worth it? It's the first thing they cut. And so when AI came out, they were the first ones to jump in there and say, "Hey, we can get rid of this, we can get rid of that." And now they're looking at it saying, might not be the best deal. Because I think, as you brought up in the beginning earlier, culture is still key. We still have a push and pull going on in this country with in-office and remote,
Mm-hmm.
which is still a hot topic, and it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
I don't see it
the
going.
new normal. Hybrid really is the new normal, because you work
Yeah.
where you're supposed to work. And sometimes it's at home, and sometimes it's in the office, and sometimes it's a combination, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, the cost of housing is ridiculous. Let's just talk about, the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Cost of housing is ridiculous. We don't have enough housing. There's a shortage. We have commercial buildings that they're renovating and changing over into the private sector more and more often. It's when companies change their leases, when companies' leases come up and they don't renew, when companies have to look at, where can we save some, that's the first thing they look at.
Yeah.
How can we do sharing? How can we downsize that space? We still need, the brick and mortar, but maybe we don't need it as much.
Yeah.
Some companies, they want the name of the building. They want the whole building. They're not necessarily in the whole building. So I see it as something that over the next 5 to 10 years will become more of a norm. We also have a generation right now. They lived during COVID. They were 15 years old during COVID, 16 years old. They're now 22, 23. They're coming out and they're like, "I don't want to go to an office." They've never maybe even worked in an office. And so it's going to take time. When we have the higher up in control, the C-suite starting to do that change over the next 5 to 10 years, the ones that had to live through working at home, the ones that went, it wasn't that bad. I actually worked more. I was more productive. The ones that companies can figure out a culture, you'll start to see that happen more as time goes on. But I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
So we're going to have to start landing this airplane. Number one, where do people get a hold of you, and how do people engage?
Well, listen, I first of all appreciate all your time. It was awesome to be here. So thank you very, very much.
Our pleasure, man.
Here's the thing. I recommend go to LinkedIn, just type in Frontline Source Group, find our company page, and follow us. That's the easiest way to do it, where it's non-intrusive to you. You can be just quiet in the background. You don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
That's the first step, right? Because the activity that's on there is a daily activity for us, multiple times. Anything that's happening, that's how we network and grow the network. But you need to also. We definitely give hints, ideas, thoughts, what you need to do. If you're not looking great, if you are looking fantastic, or if your company needs help referring it, whatever. The second place, visit our website, which is also on the company page. There are plenty of links there, but it's just frontlinesourcegroup.com. check us out, read the information. There's just tons.
frtline.com. FRT Source Line.
You can get, that's our email domain, but the actual domain is just the company name, frontlinesourcegroup.com.
Okay.
You can get there. You get there either way, whatever's easiest for you.
Awesome.
Social media, YouTube, you name it, we're everywhere.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. At the Grampion, we always ask this question. There's someone back, if you look over your shoulder, you look in the rearview mirror, you look back over your history, and there's a person who has impacted your journey in such a fantastic way that you just got to say thank you or give him props right now. Who would that be?
Yeah, I wish he was alive that I could tell him still. His name is Ronnie Horton. We actually have a scholarship that we do. It's on our website. It's called the Ronnie Horton Legacy Scholarship. He in the grocery industry. I started in the grocery industry in high school and worked in the grocery stores. He was a mentor as I went through different change. I told you, single parent, had to go to college, had a scholarship, all through the grocery business, and that was our giving back. This gentleman made a difference. The gentleman that runs our grocery industry, we worked together in high school. He stayed in the grocery business, and I was luckily able to grab him out. But we created that scholarship to give back. There's actually a book, kind of a couple chapters that we wrote talking about our journey with him and what he did and as young men, and mentoring us to understand business and to grow through that business. But yeah, that's the number one person that I always look back at, even to this day. What a difference he made on my life.
Well, right on. Ronnie Horton, we want to say thank you up there and appreciate you and the investment that you made in our guest today, Bill Kasko. Bill, thanks for being on the Grampion. And hey, Grampion Nation, you keep having those Grampion-sized dreams and go do something about it. This is Jim, and I. When you get an opportunity, subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcast.